What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Okay, so a video I had did before about getting cheated on and stuff like that was taken down. So this is gonna be my re-record of that video. So hold on, let me go ahead and get this right. So I said what I do is go ahead and put some of because they got taken down because of the background music, I believe. Well, that's actually what it is. So I said I'd go ahead and why don't we just go ahead and just kind of make it like a drive. So I got a drive from Seattle. This is actually from South Seattle, going up north. So you guys can kind of get a feel just being kind of a passenger and stuff like that. Um, And then I just got some different background music that I just got from my PC that shouldn't get any type of flags or anything. I got my diet green tea here. Trying to stay off the sugar and stuff. Cause you guys didn't know sugar actually is a major component in high blood pressure. So something about I forgot the exact details. Y'all can Google it. You guys are smart people and stuff like that. So trying to stay away from that. I don't want to develop any type of high blood pressure. I want to be here as long as possible. So I might as well try to stay healthy. So I like my green tea. Gotta be sweet, but I gotta stay off the whole sugar stuff. So it's diet. Anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the story once again. And if you guys watched the last video, thank you. It's going to be very similar to that. I'm just going to go over my story of being cheated on, go through what led up to it, the actual event of the cheating, and then what I learned from it 4 years later. You guys might see my son and my daughter in the background, because again, I'm just recording this and everything like that. So, alright, so without further ado, let's get into the story. So let's just start off from the beginning of our relationship. So this person, I'm not gonna say I said her name last time, but I'm just respect the privacy and stuff like that. I met this person back when we were in high school. She was a junior at the time. I was a freshman, a sophomore. We went to prom together, and it was kind of a turbulent start because she's from a foreign nation. She's from Hong Kong or whatever, and I was a black guy. Her parents really didn't like me at all or anything like that. So it was a very turbulent start to the whole stuff and everything like that. So eventually we got through high school. She dropped out of college and then decided that she kind of wanted to come stay with me and kind of build her life with me. I'm reading back on it. I'm not saying this is coming out of her mouth, but this is just what I have just kind of gathered just from how things played out. So again, she, I guess our first moments or our first time of actually really, being on our own together and really being able to be significant, each other's significant other without any type of high school BS and stuff like that would have been right after I graduated from high school. Again, she was there for my graduation, and then we immediately went to go move in to a place that my mom allowed us to stay in. She allowed us to stay in one of her old places, and yeah, we moved in together. That would have been the summer of '08, and yeah. And things were going pretty good. I mean, the relationship was absolutely fire. When I say fire, I mean we were very intimate. several times a day, and definitely had consequences from that, and dealt with it the best way we thought possible at that time. Is what it is. And then we went to college, and if I'm being honest, I was okay with her coming to college, but at the same time, I wasn't. Just because I had heard so many things from my elders at the time talking about, college is supposed to be years where you kind of learn yourself, figure yourself out, and really that's supposed to be where you're just basically going out and banging anybody and everything like that. And I never did that because, again, we went to college together, and I was always one to try to keep um, some type of integrity within inside of the relationship. So any type of, like, cheating or anything like that, I never partook in that or anything like that. And the way that I defined cheating was going out and actually pursuing a relationship and actually having sex with somebody else on the side. That's something I never did. Never ever did that during our whole ordeal, just because that just wasn't something that was in my character. Just not something I felt comfortable doing, and I never did that. I definitely did express. Another thing with that is that I was a very transparent person. Still am a very transparent person. If you know me, I keep it direct. I keep it 100 with everybody. Same thing was here in our relationship. So there were a few moments to where I had feelings. It wasn't even really feelings. It was literally just me wanting to. I'm trying to keep the language. It was literally me just wanting to have sex with another girl while I was with her, but I literally would let her know, hey, this is how I'm feeling and stuff like that. I'm just playing the air out. So just to let you know that this is what it is, I'm working on it. And I felt like we worked past that stuff. So there was one major issue. I won't get into the other person, but it was a person that was close to her, and me and that other person had started doing the whole sexting type of thing. And I don't want to get into too many details, but we both exchanged pleasantries, even though one side would like to deny it. But we both exchanged pleasantries and stuff like that. We never took it to the point to where we actually had physical contact, but I let my what's the best way to say this? I let my lower brain think in a way that I shouldn't have at the time. So I let her know. Like I said, I always keep it 100 and everything like that. But again, I'm just trying to paint a picture and everything like that. Let y'all know what it is. So we went to college. First year was cool outside of what I just explained, but it was the second year that was a little bit turbulent. She actually during the middle of some of that year, she actually went back and visited her sister, but she absolutely said that I feel like she was really clingy at the time. Well, I don't feel like she was a very clingy person at the time. And so anytime she would actually get away from me or get away from a person that was showing her direct affection or something like that, she would always, she would be able to stay away for maybe a week, because she was supposed to be gone for pretty much the whole summer, but she ended up coming back within 2 or 3 weeks. And at the time, I was working a full-time job at Walmart, and like I said, when I was working at Walmart, I got my first apartment by myself and everything like that. I moved in myself. She did help with some of the moving expenses, but the rest of the stuff I had to pay for myself. And then she also had helped me when this was back in high school. She had helped get me a car. after I had lost my first car. So she came back that within like 2 weeks. Within that 2 weeks, and she immediately got really clingy and stuff like that, and we actually kind of had our spat in between then, but we got that little stuff figured out. So then, second college year rolls around. I'm now a sophomore in college, and this is when things got kind of tricky. So she ended up flunking out of the college we were going to, and she ended up going back to stay with her sister, just because obviously she flunked out, she couldn't stay in the dorms, and I didn't flunk out. I was able to stay and everything like that. And this was the first time since high school where we really had to be separated, just because we were in different things. Again, she really didn't want to be in college anymore. I still kind of wanted to be in college, and so I stayed for that second semester without her. Basically, what I'd do is I'd go out to where she was at with her sister, which was here in Seattle, and then I'd fly back to. I'd go out and visit her, but then I'd fly back to college and complete that and everything like that. And during that second semester, that was actually honestly my favorite semester. It is what it is. I mean, I can say that now. And I kind of expressed this to her as well, but I wasn't too deep on it, because again, I wasn't trying to create any type of trouble in the relationship or anything. But that second semester, my second college year, second semester without her was absolutely one of the best. So that was when I was able to really join into a lot of the campus programs and stuff like that without having to have her with me, because she wasn't necessarily the most outgoing person at that time. And so trying to join stuff and everything like that, if I was to go there, either she would be very clingy, but then when she would come, she'd be like ready to leave, or giving signals that she doesn't really want to be there, and it just created kind of a clash. And so I didn't want to leave her, so I just didn't join the program. But when she wasn't there, hey, it didn't matter. At the same time, this was another time where I started to develop feelings for another person. The feeling wasn't even mutual. It was just me having kind of a crush on her, another girl at that time, but she didn't reciprocate it at all or anything like that. But again, I was always transparent, just let her know things. And yeah, so after the whole second semester thing, I ended up that ended up actually being my last year of college, true college, that is. And I moved out to Seattle. I moved out to Seattle with her, and never went back to college. I moved out to Seattle. I was actually planning on coming back to college, because I thought she was going to be able to come back and wanting to come back, but it never worked out. I forget the exact details why, but it never worked out. So eventually, we both decided to stay in Seattle, and she got me into. She introduced me to the medical assistant program out here in Seattle, while I was while she was doing her not medical assistant, but what's that called? Pharmacy tech program. I forgot, but I think it's pharmacy tech, whatever. It was a waste of both of our time. She didn't go into the pharmacy tech, and I went to work in a clinic, but I literally worked in that clinic for like I want to say maybe a month, if that. It just didn't work out. It was never, the medical field was never a profession for me, but it was something that I did because I was trying to keep the relationship, because I really, 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 really liked being in a relationship, and just kind of thinking back on it, I just simply had didn't want to not be in a relationship. I just didn't want to be alone. I like the access to sex. It is what it is. Let me just keep it 100. It is what it is. And we had during that year, from 2010 to 2011, it was just like before. We had a ton of sex, and it was a ton of fun. So we did that again. We did that for a year, and then 2011, summer 2011 rolls around. Now, so when that stuff didn't work out, we had decided, or at least from my understanding, is that we were going to be going back to college or whatever. And so I had went to Springfield, back to Springfield first. That's where we originated from, as far as our dating and stuff. I went back to Springfield first. I was able to actually get back into NIU, even though I was off for the year, but because I kept my grades and stuff afloat, they allowed me to come back in. And then I also got one of my friends, Gino, booked up to NIU after some of the stuff that he had went through. So we were all supposed to be going up there together. We were actually going to be staying in Rockford together, but he eventually went and decided to stay in the dorm or whatever, and we didn't want to just be in a apartment in Rockford that we couldn't afford, because the apartment at that time, I think it was like $1,200 or $1,300, but we were going to split it 4 ways. So it would be me, my ex, Gino, and then his significant other at the time as well. And we were going to be splitting it 4 ways. But when he decided to go to the dorms, she obviously left with him, so I left the 2 ways. And we decided that we couldn't afford that, so we were like, okay, well, back to Seattle it was, because that's what we knew. We didn't know Rockford. So we ended up selling my vehicle at the time and scrounging up the money, and we barely made it out back to Seattle. I think we made it to Seattle with maybe like, I want to say like $700 or $800, and then she was able to find a place to where it was like a shared college home type of thing, and we stayed there. We stayed on the basement floor of that little. It was like a really big house. Basically, it's not even a multi-duplex. It was just a really big house. We stayed on the bottom, in the basement, sleeping on the floor, sleeping on mats and everything like that. And it was at that time, so I was just like, I didn't want to live like this. It just wasn't working at all. And so that's when I discovered a company called DMI, and I started selling cable internet phone services. It was also during that time where I really discovered the casino and gambling, and that's where stuff really started to spiral out of control for me. So one thing about addiction, and this is any type of addiction, is you never see it coming. And by the time you're addicted, it's too late. And that's exactly what happened with me. So with the job I was working at, I was making very good money for what I thought. I was like 22, maybe 21, 22, 23, something like that. And I was making like $1,400-$1,500 a week. You gotta understand, I went from making nothing, sleeping in a basement of a house, to making $1,400-$1,500 a week, and getting us out of that situation and actually moving us to a very posh area of the Seattle area, in a place called Redmond. Redmond is where like you'll find like the Microsoft headquarters. That's where you'll find, that's right around the T-Mobile headquarters area, right around Nintendo America headquarters. A whole bunch of companies there, and it's a very, very, very nice area. Rent was like $1,300 or $1,400, something like that. And I was able to get us moved into there. I was also able to get us a new car, and I thought, everything was great. And again, since I was bringing in, steady. I was good at what I did. I guess it was a God's gift to me. It was God's gift to me. Quick segment. Where this is at right now, I actually, and I'll go over this story a little bit more in detail. But when I was homeless, where I was staying at, if they go down here and make that right, or make this right here, there's a building over there called the Compass Center. That's actually where I stayed at for about almost a year when I got homeless. Just following the video and stuff, it just brought back memories. Okay, so back to the video and everything like that. And just to say, y'all, you don't think I'm BS. So if you keep going down this hill and stuff like that, you're going to run into a beach that I used to go to all the time, right down here off of, I want to say it's like Denny Way or something like that. It's a super duper nice thing down here. Loved it. Absolutely beautiful down there. Okay, back to the story. Sorry, I'm getting sidetracked, man. Just some of these images are bringing back some memories. Memories I go over in another video. Anyway, back to the story. So, since I was bringing in like $1,400-$1,500 because I was good at what I did, I started like every week going to the casino. And in the Seattle area, it's like I said, in many places, in like Springfield and stuff like that, for you to go to a casino, you have to drive like an hour and a half, and it's a big old thing, stuff like that. Well, that's not Seattle. Seattle does have that. They have actually a lot of big casinos in that area. I'm talking like, if you're in Springfield and you're familiar with the size of like the Lumineer or Paradise Casino, those are relatively small to medium-sized casinos, and they have at least like 3 or 4 of those within about an hour's drive from where I was staying in Redmond. Just to kind of give you that. But where I was going to, where they have these like little small casinos. They're not, they're just for table games. And the game that I had got really addicted to was a game called Baccarat, to where you bet on both sides, stuff like that. I don't need to explain the game to you because that's not really important to this. But I had got addicted to a game called Baccarat, and it was just the proximity of it being around there. I feel like that kind of contributed to it, to where I was able to just, again, it was about maybe a 10 or 15 minute drive, and yeah, I would every week, because we would get paid on, it was every Monday we would get paid, and I'd take my check, cash it, leave maybe $4 or $5 to be able to cover the rent expenses and stuff like that, and then take the rest, and I would go to the casino. But then it would get bad enough. It got bad enough to the point to where I wasn't even living any type of money or anything. And where she was working, it just simply wasn't enough to cover where we were living at. So eventually, I kept doing that, and we eventually got evicted. Again, it's my fault. And there's more details. Also in the middle of this, going into 2012, during, like I said, when it just really got bad, the taxes that we had got that year, I actually took all of it and went down to, no, I didn't go down. I took all of it, lost that money, and then I went down to San Francisco, because we had a spat about me losing the money and stuff like that, and I was just like, you know what, after everything, I can drop all of this, I'll go down to San Francisco. I don't need none of this. What I just took off in the middle of the night. Just terrible decision on making on my side, right? And went down there, and I actually lost more money. It was crazy. Right. So this pretty much went on all the way until really about the whole gambling addiction thing and everything like that. It still technically goes on till today, but I've just learned to really cope with and how to manage it and how to manage those attacks and everything like that. Because again, it's nobody prepares. Nobody wants to get addicted. It just happens. It's one of those things that happens. You're a victim of the addiction. So other people are talking about, being a victim. This is something that I didn't plan. It's a victim of the condition, but that doesn't mean that I didn't participate in making those choices and stuff like that. And if I go to the casino and stuff like that, that's a choice that I'm making. I have the ability to control that. Anyway, so in the middle of all of this stuff, we had a kid. We actually had 2 children, but we had our first son. He was conceived out here in Seattle, but during my whole addiction phase and everything like that, we moved from Redmond to North Seattle. That worked out for a little bit, but because of the whole addiction stuff, I was taking money and everything like that. It is what it is, and so we ended up getting kicked out of there, and so we moved to Springfield, and I was able to come into some money from unemployment from working out in Seattle, basically. And was able to get a good place and stuff out there for us to be able to have our kid and everything like that. And really, I would say the addiction got a lot. I was able to start controlling it a lot better when we had our son and stuff like that. But it wasn't completely gone or anything like that. It was just, I was learning how to, really recover from that stuff and really, put that to the side. Anyway, though, we moved to Springfield, right? This is 2013. I moved to Springfield first, get the money and get that stuff straightened out, and then I move her out to us, and everything like that. And then whole addiction stuff still happens and everything like that. I had got a Cadillac at the time, but then I lost the Cadillac because I went and got a title loan on it. And blew that money out the casino, and then obviously I couldn't pay the money back. Pay the loan back, so they took the vehicle and stuff. But we still had money left over because I was getting money every week from unemployment, and it was enough to be able to. Since I was getting it every week, and what I had did is I was just making sure to give her at least one of those checks to make sure we covered our rent. We were able to stay in that place without, being kicked out or evicted or anything like that, right? And then it was in 2014 when I was really kind of recovering from that first little stint or whatever, that I was given a position to head a sales team up in the Chicago area. And so I took the position. I thought it was a very good position. She didn't really like me doing the whole, not door-to-door stuff, but the whole working on straight commission. And so she wanted me to have some type of base, and that's what this position initially said that they would offer. Turned out to be complete BS, but it is what it is. Sorry if I'm not looking at the camera too much. Like I said, I'm watching the video. This is just memories. Anyway, so I took that position, and then we ended up moving up to Rockford in order for me to do that position. Long story short with that, it turned out to be a complete bust. There was no base pay, and I was literally driving an hour from Rockford to Elgin, and we were losing money just in gas and stuff like that, because what they wanted me to do, they put me in a building, but as far as anything else, as far as any type of support system or anything like that, there was nothing. I had to do all the marketing. I had to bring in all the potential employees for stuff, take them out in the field, teach them how to do the sales and stuff like that, while trying to get my own sales at the same time. And it was super overwhelming. This is also in the middle of her being pregnant with our second child, and also raising my son and my daughter. They are really loud. Give me 1 second. Alright, I'm back. Kids, man. It's all good. Okay. Where was that? Oh, yeah. So, she was pregnant with my daughter. Still had my son. And it was just a rough time, right? And so, let's see. That went on. And then 2015 rolled around. Where we at? I'm trying to not make this too long. 2015 rolls around. My daughter is born, and again, it's still pretty much the same old. I'm still dealing with the whole gamut thing and everything like that, right? So she's born, and then I say, okay, I want to get out of this position. What can I do? Let me look for another position. And so I started looking at positions in the Rockford area, Chicago area, and Seattle, because Seattle was a place that I'm familiar with. I landed a position in Seattle. The position I landed was working for Comcast. Actually wasn't in Seattle, it was in Bellevue, but it's the same area. Quick side note, this is over towards Chinatown. If you were to go to your right, that's where the Seattle Stadium is. I know this bus stop very, very, very well. So he just changed. He changed views on me a little bit. But if you were to do kind of a 180, going the opposite direction, again, that's back towards Chinatown. This is kind of going towards the Pioneer Square. Just kind of giving y'all a tour and let you guys know. You can see a homeless tent there. You'll see a whole bunch of them in the Pioneer Square area. Y'all want to talk about homelessness? Seattle's Springfield ain't got nothing on Seattle when it comes to that type of stuff. Anyway, though, okay. back to the video. So I got a position out there in the Bellevue area, and I went out there and I took that position, and I left her back in Rockford while I went out there, and I was supposed to be building a home for us out here. Well, long story short, I screwed up that position. Not that I didn't get fired, that I actually left because I had went and worked. I was overthinking it too much. So what they were paying me was like, because I hadn't even did the training yet, and they were paying me maybe like $500 or $600 a week, right? Which was way more than what I was making immediately prior to that, but wasn't as much that I was used to making out in Seattle, just doing my own door-to-door knocking, right? And so when I got back out to Seattle, I had ran into my old partner. He said, well, we still got the position open as far as knocking and stuff like that. And I took the position, left the Comcast position. Stupidest thing I ever did, right? And she was basically pissed about that. So she decided that she wasn't going to come back out here. I also blew the money. That's another crazy homeless guy to the left. This is the library up here, by the way, to the right. Okay, back to the thing. Spent a lot of time in the library. Anyway, back to the video. So she was really mad about that. It also didn't help that I had got back into the habit of gambling out here, and I actually eventually became homeless for the first time that year. That was 2015. But by the end of 2015, I came into some money. I came into like $25,000, right? Can't get into how I got that. That's another video. But I came into some good money, right? But it was at this time to where I think she just was at kind of her limit, to say, or she was at her kind of pushing point and was getting ready to just say, okay, maybe I'm not the person that she envisioned that I could be at that time and stuff like that, right? And so we actually had kind of a spat and discussion, and I was actually thinking about, because I had all that money, of just moving. Instead of coming back out to Rockford or anything like that, I was just going to go down to, actually it was supposed to be Houston. It was going to be between Houston and LA. I was going to fly out there, get my own place, and then I'd go see the kids and stuff like that when I see the kids. Just the terrible mindset at the time, right? But eventually I said, I didn't want to leave my kids. That was the main thing. I didn't want to leave my kids. At the same time, I felt like I owed her too, right? So I took that money, went back to Rockford. That was Christmas Day of 2015. I blew some of the money on just gambling because I was just like, well, I don't need the money no more, so I'll go gamble it. And then I got a car and paid for the rent for a couple months, everything like that, right? So it was when I had got back out there. This must have been this was the beginning of 2016. This is like January 1st or 2nd. And I had saw some type of message. She was messaging back with one of her girlfriends at the time, talking about me, but referenced me as her ex, and it really just set me off. Like, what the heck is this? Why are you considering your ex? I thought we were still together, stuff like that, right? And so I went on a drinking binge, ended up in the hospital, blackout drunk, and everything like that, right? And it was a really bad situation with that, right? And then we had kind of talked in the hospital after that whole ordeal and everything like that, and said, okay, we're going to at least try this again and try to make this work out and everything like that. So eventually I got healthy, and then I was like, okay, well, I was planning on moving down to the Texas area anyway. Maybe I could go down there and find us and build us a home down there, which is what I did, right? She had got her taxes for that year, and she gave me like $2,500 or $3,000, and I came down here. To again, it was supposed to be originally Houston, but to get to Houston, I had to pass up Dallas. So I was like, well, let me stop here real quick, see what they got here. So I got a hotel for a week, and I landed a position. Well, let me back up real quick. Before I went down, I had already had a position lined up through what I was already kind of doing out in Seattle, because it's just a door-to-door position. I figured out those are really easy positions to get, right? So, but my ultimate thing was to actually go to Houston, because I had a interview lined up in Houston, but the interview, but by the time I was going to be getting to Houston, the interview still wouldn't have been for like a week and a half or something like that. So I was like, well, let me stop in Dallas, see what they have. And I did, and stopped in Dallas, got that position, and I did really well at it. I made like $1,200, so I'm like, oh, cool. But I was like, I'm not going to stay at the position because it's a door-to-door position. Let me see what else they have down here while I'm staying in this hotel for the week. And I landed a position at a company called Time Warner Communications, doing their in-house for inbound sales position, over the phone and stuff. And did very well with that. And so I was like, I'm going to stay here in Dallas. I like the area. I like the people. I was finally able to get me another one of my own places and stuff. And yeah, well, I did that for several months, all the way until the end of July, early August. And the reason I left is because during that time, because my ex was saying that, I was telling her, in the months of about March and April, like, hey, we're ready to go. We could come on down here. But it was at that time she was giving me a lot of pushback. It was also during this time she was also doing her, she had said she was doing bankruptcy or something like that. And, which she was, and everything. And so she's doing her bankruptcy thing. She's giving me pushback, and I remember I had talked to my mom or whatever, and she was just like, well, from what I'm kind of gathering from visiting her here, because she was taking the kids down there to see my mom and stuff. She was like, it feels like she's just putting herself in a position to move on from Kenny, right? And so when she finally just kind of made it adamant that no, she doesn't want to come out there or come out here to Dallas, I just quit. I immediately quit my position. I was like, okay, I see what it is. Where you're not about to just keep my kids from me or anything like that. And that's, we're supposed to be together and everything like that. And so I left the position, came back up there and everything, and kind of got it straightened out. This was the last little hoorah. So this is like September, right? But when I came back, I just had this sense that, okay, something's just not right. I feel like you've been already kind of sneaking around, already, doing your whole dirty stuff and everything like that, right? But I wasn't really sure, right? This was also the time where I had got a sexually explicit image from a girl that I had a super thing on since I was like 12 or 13 or something like that. And she said she accidentally sent them. I don't know how this stuff happened, but it was just a random thing. And I bit on the stuff. It is what it is. And so since I was kind of going through a thing with my ex, I'm sending her stuff, talking to this girl and stuff like that, sending her all type of stuff and everything like that. But it was nothing ever serious or anything like that. And again, I want to stress this. I'm not saying that what I did was right. I'm just saying that I never had any intent on ever being with this girl. Well, my ex caught wind of that, and we got into a real big spat about that thing. I thought we had straightened that out. And like I told her, I felt like she was already creeping around on me. She said she wasn't, but whatever. So, anyways, fast forward, let's get on to the whole cheating part, right? And again, I was just setting the stage. Oh, you know what? We're here. So, if you look to the direct left, that building, not that building there, right up there, right past there, that's where I was staying at. Stayed up there. It's a homo show. Anyway, though. Okay. Back to the thing. So, let's just get on to the cheating part. So, when did I really have a real suspicion that she was cheating, right? This was right at, well, I had my suspicions before. So, normally she would come down for Thanksgiving, right? Because we had moved. She was still staying in the original place we had moved back in 2014. But we had moved. We had just moved. Because I had bought a house. Not bought a house, but, well, yeah, I had bought a house. It is what it is. I had bought a house, and we had just moved into this house, right? I had money left over from working. Not only from work in Dallas, but then I had also won some money at a casino. It is what it is. I wasn't supposed to be going, but hey, I ended up winning a good portion, right? So I had money and was able to get us a house. And so we had just moved into this house right. It must have been right before Thanksgiving or right during the time of Thanksgiving, right? And normally she would come down to Thanksgiving with my family and stuff like that. But this year, or this time, she was very adamant on she didn't want to come to Thanksgiving. She just wanted to stay for work. We needed money for bills and stuff like that. Which I was like, okay, cool. Do your thing. I understand. You need money for bills, cool. Because she was very adamant, right? But when I came back from Thanksgiving, a Christmas tree that I had purchased and stuff yet, but hadn't put up. But she was wanting me to put it up, but I just hadn't had the time for it, right? It was automatically put up, right? And I asked her, well, how did this Christmas tree get put up? She was like, well, I didn't put who put the Christmas tree up? She didn't say she did it, but she couldn't say who did it at the time. And again, this is just me thinking back on the stuff. Oh, somebody must have been over here. I had my suspicion, but I was just like, okay, whatever. I don't know what was going on, but I was like, okay, whatever, right? And then where I really found out about it was a couple days after New Year's. What happened was is she was again during the whole time of this stuff, she started to work late, and usually she would, because she had picked up a second job or whatever. Her second job was working at McDonald's, but her McDonald's hours when we were all right and stuff like that. She usually used to get back. She used to work from like maybe 6:30, 7 o'clock, and she would get off at like 11:30. But eventually it started to be she didn't come, and she'd be home by 12. Well, eventually she started to not to get home until like 2 or 3 in the morning, which it set off alarms and stuff like that, right? But anyway, though, during like it must have been like the second or third, no, it was the second. It was the day after New Year's. She said that she was working late, right? But she never came home. She went to work, but she never came home. And then I got a call from her. It must have been like 9 or 10 a.m. that on that second, right? And I'm asking her, where's she at, right? And she's like, I'm an agent. Bell and got a friend, right? And I'm like, well, who is this friend that you're bailing out? We barely got money for our damn selves. Well, how we got money to be bailing out somebody from jail? Who is this friend that you're talking about, right? And it was a friend that she had introduced me to, who had helped us move into our new place. Again, I was suspicious at that time too, because I'm like, what type of guy friend helps you move in without wanting anything back? And behold, my suspicion was right? And so she was like, well, it's the friend that you met him before and everything like that. And the thing in my head, I'm like, there's just no, why would this friend know to call you to bail him out of jail? And so when she came home, because she didn't get home that day until like, it must have been like 1 or 2 o'clock, 2, 3 o'clock that next day, the third. Now we're talking about the third, right? And that's when I just, like I said, I was just up all night. I was playing League of Legends and stuff like that, but really I wasn't even paying attention like that. I just wait for her to get home, and then I just confronted her on stuff, right? And my final thing, I'm yelling at now, like, okay, call this dude right now, because I just want to fucking see something, right? Excuse my language, but I just want to see something, right? She calls him. It must have been like 3:30 in the morning, right? He immediately answers. I'm like, oh yeah, it's on the cracking, because I already know what's going on, right? And so we get into a whole little argument and stuff like that, and then I just broke him down. I was just basically like, do y'all have a thing for each other? And she was just like, yeah, we like each other. And then I was just like, hey, okay, let me get on to the goddamn chase. Have you had sex with him? And she, yep, basically, yeah. She didn't look directly in my eyes, said she just looked down and was like, yeah. After that, it was done, And like I said, the stuff that happened afterwards and everything like that, I ain't gonna get into that too much, but I just want to get into what I learned and why she did what she did. Short end of the stick, I simply had got out of my alpha mode and got out of my purpose, and she didn't feel that she was secure and stuff like that, and she felt like, okay, it's time for me to move on and try to find somebody else, and that's what she did. And the thing about, I guess the whole thing about this is, and I felt like I told it better before, but again, I'm trying to keep the video shorter than before, but whatever. The thing about that stuff, about cheating and stuff like that, is either you could just, and this isn't to say what she did was right, because cheating is, regardless of who does it, isn't necessarily right, especially if you made a commitment to stay faithful to one another. But that you still want to be able to learn something from it. And at the time, I was super devastated, super whatever. But you have to be able to go back and be like, okay, well, what can I learn from this? What drove you to end at that time, would have been a 10-year relationship and destroy our family and stuff like that over that? And I'm like, okay, well, what did I do wrong? What could I have done better? And dealing with an addict, dealing with a person that you feel isn't necessarily going nowhere, or you feel that this relationship or progress isn't being made, she felt like, okay, well, I have to move on. Because at the time, I never made the commitment to marry her. In my mind, I felt like we were already married, and at that time, I didn't really see the importance of actually legalizing the marriage, because I just said, okay, well, I feel like we're already considered married, so why don't we do this, whatever. But from her perspective, since she never saw that actual commitment, she said that, okay, well, since there's no commitment on my part from that, and this is just me just kind of giving my perception on how I think or why I think she did the things she did. Again, she's never really came out and said why. She just said what she did. She never really came out and said why, right? Outside of what basically she just told me. What did she say? This is like right after the stuff. Something about I would never change, or I feel like you're never going to change, or something like that, right? And so, just kind of thinking back on that type of stuff, she just felt like there was no commitment on the stuff, and she felt like she was in a dead end thing, and she wasn't getting nothing out of it, so she wanted to do something different. And so this is just, I guess, the lesson from here is, guys, is one, put a ring on the shit. Okay, put a ring on the stuff. To show that you are actually committed, if you are actually committed. And two, just kind of be aware, like, look, the women out here, they have a time limit, you know, and some women know this, and some women don't. She understood this. I didn't understand it at the time, but she understood that she has a time limit. Her youthfulness isn't going to remain forever. She was, when was this? This was 2017, so she'd have been, what was that, 4 years ago now? So she'd have been like 27, 28. She's entering what Kevin Samuels was often called the danger zone, where once you get to there, the chances of you actually getting married and actually settling down with a family are slim. I guess she just thought, you know, and I was, the way that I was acting and the way that I was moving in a beta way, not doing shit, not being on my real purpose, letting this whole gambling thing, you know, kind of overtake me instead of me doing something about it. She went up and left. It is what it is. So just learn, again, if anybody's, you know, especially guys are looking at this, learn from my mistakes, you know. Don't be like I was, shit, in your 20s. Look, if you feel like you can't commit, and most guys in their 20s really ain't ready for marriage, and when I say ready for marriage, I'm talking, you ain't sold your loins. You know what that means? You know what that means? That means you haven't explored your options most of the time. You're not necessarily in a financial position to be able to support a marriage or children or anything like that. And you're still discovering yourself as a man. Think about a woman though, as again, her eggs, she's got a time limit on her eggs. Most women start to go through menopause at 40, and high risk pregnancy starts at about 34, 35. And the time to get married for most women, the marriages that are going to really last, that's in their 20s. And if you feel like you're wasting that stuff, you feel like you're wasting her prime years, hey, you're gonna move on. Anyway, though, that's pretty much the gist of the story. I feel like I probably left out some stuff that I had from the other video, but that's pretty much the gist of the stuff. If y'all have any other questions or want to learn more and stuff like that, then hit me up in the comments and let me know. Again, this is just a remake of, not a remake, but a retake of the video that I've already did. I just didn't feel like having to edit out all this stuff, so I said, you know what, I'll record stuff again. Alright, well, it's definitely been great. Hopefully you guys have had a fun time kind of touring Seattle a little bit. Definitely some familiar places here, definitely some familiar places. This is actually along that beach, so this is actually one of the first places that I sold at when I was selling back in, what was that, 2011? No, yeah, 2011. Early places. Some of them high rises right over there, like you guys are seeing to your right. And then that beach I was telling you guys about is actually right to the left. So you guys are seeing buildings right here, but if you were able to just look straight left, you see nothing but water, and that's going to be Puget Sound. That's what they call that up over there. And then we should be coming up on, I want to say this is Aurora Avenue, actually. Highway 99. That's another way to call it. No, this is not Highway 99. It's right along there. But yeah, beautiful beach over there to the left. If you turn to the left enough, you'll actually see Alki Beach and stuff like that. Super nice. Anyway, I've gotten way off track. Thank y'all for watching. Please rate, comment, subscribe, and yeah, peace in the Middle East.